Welcome back to Adobe Live here at the Symposium 2019 in Sydney, and I'm with the lovely Mike Rigby.
Hello, my friend.
How are you?
I am chipper. How are you
You're
doing?
chipper? Are you feeling any jet lag or?
Yes, substantial jet lag. Worse than usual, actually, but yeah, I'm still high-spirited. So
Yes.
it's okay.
Excellent. And you did a keynote yesterday?
Oh, I did everything.
Yeah.
A bloody keynote, a panel, this.
You've done a breakout?
Yeah, I had a breakout. Yeah.
Breakdown at the breakout.
Exactly.
So I think that's where I'd like to, I've got your slides here, and I was wondering whether we could go through your breakout.
Absolutely.
And kind of talk about, because it looks like a fascinating slide deck.
Okay, let's
So-
do it.
Let's swap over to that. And then I'll just keep on peppering in with the
Okay.
questions.
Well, this was a panel earlier today, two of the fellow panelists, and this was the brief that we got from Michael Stoddard. And he's like, make your case. How do we solve design thinking? Introduce yourself.
Just quickly.
And then he threw this casual question in there. What's the future of design innovation? Just like a sub point. So it's kind of like, all right.
In 10 minutes, please.
Exactly, 10 minutes. So this is the fastest deck ever. It's like 80 slides in here. And, starting with design thinking. So I think just to simplify the debate, because design thinking has been around forever, right, since the 60s. But I think it's become, another mainstream issue again today, partly because of, Natasha Jen's design thinking is bullshit talk at Adobe 99U a few years ago. And then, of course, Tim, is probably the other leading kind of figure in this.
Yep.
And he came back this year's 99U, right? So it's almost like the debate's unfolded over subsequent kind of 99Us, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, anyway, introducing myself, design's come a long, long way since I graduated, since I was a design student. And this was the first ever project I ever worked on. Not the logo, I worked for a company called The Chase. We were rebranding a bank, and I got to work on the guidelines. I was not doing anything useful. I was literally just putting pages in a printed guideline that would also be PDF'd. And just remember this first project. So I'll come back to it again in a few slides. That was the first thing I ever worked on. But the first couple of projects I worked on, they all failed. Everything failed. And this was the first logo I ever designed. It was a logo for a coffee shop, community center. We could go and talk about art, etc.
It's quite nice.
It's nice. Yeah, it stands up. It's all right. Type's a bit dodgy, but this was an environmental housing project called Leach Street. This was designed by a friend of mine, actually, Ollie Maltby, who's a legend. And it was a marketing company called 3CV, or 3 Core Values. So, just making that kind of one symbol out of those things. So this was like exciting. We kind of won awards for these. And this was what I was obsessed about. Logos, identity, simplicity, the idea, communication, not decoration. But what happened quite quickly, within a year, they'd all failed. They'd all gone out of business.
Right.
So like Art Lounge, it just wasn't viable in the neighborhood. It decided to open in. Leaf Street failed to get the funding. The pitch wasn't good enough. And 3CV broke apart because they couldn't agree the direction of the company.
So
amusingly.
So it succeeded as far as other designers loving it.
Exactly. It won awards, and that's what at the time I was kind of quite pleased with myself. But then, of course, when this happened, I cared about these people. I knew them. I'd met them. And I was invested, as you are as a designer, in their success. And to see them fail so spectacularly, I kind of started asking myself some pretty hard questions. And I decided from this moment on that I didn't just want to be designing a beautiful veneer on a flawed business.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try and find as many ways as possible to get involved sooner so that I could actually genuinely help them succeed in every way, not just the graphic bit at the end.
Yep.
And I think that I would look to inspiration for my heroes throughout the industry, one being Bruce Mau. And, he's a legend, obviously, and he talked about the future of design being less about the world of design and more about the design of the world. So how can we use our incredible talent for problem solving to solve a myriad of different problems, not just graphic problems? I think that, you can transfer some of those skills. He wasn't being disparaging. He was just trying to encourage us to open up a bit as an industry. It can be so inward-looking at times. You design for yourself or other designers. Well, that's not how it works. It's like a bloody cult. Look at us. We're in black. It's just like this kind of secret society. So why don't we just open up a little bit and, use our talents to solve other problems? This is another one. I know, obviously, Dieter Rams, everyone's design hero, right? But this is my favorite Rams quote. Indifference towards people and the reality in which they live is actually the only thing you can really do wrong in design. So don't design for yourself. This is human-centered design, before it was a thing, really. And, his craft was exceptional. His mastery of materials was brilliant, but he was designing with the user in mind. He was generous about it. He thought of them first, and I think that's awesome. I actually had the honor of meeting Dieter recently, so I was invited to the premiere of Rams.
Right.
Yeah, and I turned up. I was determined to get a selfie, but what happened was my friend Sunil Radia, who's awesome, got inducted into the Advertising Hall of Fame that same day. And because it's advertising, drinking started at 11 a.m.
No.
So I was completely wasted, and I turned up in a bloody suit and tie. Like everyone else in the theater was like casual.
Yeah.
And I just went, right, I'm gonna get a selfie. So this is the three moments from my Instagram story. Dieter Rams hates me. Look at this. He just hates me. He's like, who's this joker? Complete idiot. So I just made a complete fool of myself in front of a design icon. But it's okay. He kind of liked me in the end, and we did some work together afterwards, so that was cool.
Right.
And then Tim. Right, so Tim is one of my design heroes. First of all, he's a creative person and a designer that's a CEO.
Yeah.
That is so unusual. I think that should be, awarded and recognized. That's great. I think more creative people should be leading businesses, and he's one of the best. And his seminal TED Talk, 2009, the problem with design, it came really small.
Yeah.
And his point was, design was never supposed to be that way, right? The arts and craft movement, the Bauhaus, these are all movements, not industries, they're movements that are designed to help improve life in all kinds of ways. And his point was that design's been trivialized, it's been fetishized, it's disposable. It's about the object, not the act. And his call to designers at the time was to think big.
Yeah.
And he started to apply design thinking to business, which I think was really useful. So back to that first project, the bank. The last project, so this is an RGA project with RGA Sao Paulo, and we literally designed the bank. So to me, it's just incredible. It's called Next. This is the logo. It actually helps you. It's an interface as well, so it tells you how much you've got in your checking and saving at a glance. And we literally designed everything. We designed the interface. We designed how the service worked. And you can see it's very vibrant, disruptive, and non-traditional. But what was really cool about it was we redesigned the banking model, the business model. And so Bradesco, who own this, they're Brazil's second biggest banks. This is a huge financial institution in Brazil. And their purpose is to be the people's bank. And when you look at what's happening in Brazil, there's a whole generation been completely failed by financial institutions.
Yep.
So they're called underbanked. They don't have a bank because it's not for them. There's like a game to banking that we're always on the losing end of. And whether you make any money, it doesn't matter to the bank because they make the money out of fees and late charges.
Yeah.
So we changed that model to help people basically level up from paycheck to paycheck using AI to offer kind of credit when it's needed and also partnership opportunities. So if you tell us what your goals are, we can bring in partners that can help you do that so that you're actually leveling next level gradually and gradually so you can still live paycheck to paycheck and have a great experience, but you're actually saving towards your goals or your dreams. And we literally designed everything. This is what we designed.
So that's almost like a quantified self for your savings.
Right. Exactly.
And how did they agree to that? Because that's their whole model. I guess.
Well, I think the econometrics piece is you can show them the financial model. So this is how much you stand to make. And it's taken just a bit of more of a lifetime view of it as opposed to short-term view. Yep. So short, medium, long. Actually, we succeed because our customers make more money and we can sell them more services.
Yep.
And so it's actually more of a reciprocal relationship. We all move up together, basically. And the way that we could prove it was we could actually show them a financial model that showed them how it worked. But I think that the main thing was we didn't just design the brand, we designed the bank.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. What a shift.
Yeah.
From my first project to projects like this, where in which designers, experienced designers, graphic designers, brand designers, are helping to design the whole bank. I mean, that's the bank. That thing in your pocket today is the bank. And, I can't help but think how incredible that is. 20 years ago, we might have designed the uniforms and the signage. Yes. And now you're designing the bank. And what's awesome about that is that new model worked. 650,000 new customers they achieved in 6 months, which is a lot. And what was really satisfying was the majority of them weren't switching from another bank. It was their first bank. So they never had a bank before, and suddenly they could see this was something that was of value to them.
Yes.
So it just shows you putting people first good for business.
Yeah.
So
I'm really interested in that. Obviously, the client didn't come to you for that. So at some point, you realized that actually you needed to go a lot further.
Yeah, I think that it's they realized that they weren't connecting with a whole generation, but they didn't know. It wasn't necessarily make us a new bank or what's the model, how do we disrupt it. That was the problem. Is okay, so we don't have relevance for a new generation. Can you help us understand why? And it's funny, when you start looking, you're surveying them, it was credible. It's 80% of them said they'd rather go to a dentist than a bank.
Wow.
And no one had actually looked at how they actually live because they're living paycheck to paycheck. And they, of course, have dreams, right? Everyone has dreams.
Yeah.
But they don't want to sacrifice what they're doing today. So they want to have an enjoyable life today. So how can you actually take that 15-day cycle and build an experience around it? And we looked around and no one had done it before, which was quite surprising. So we did it and it worked.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah. So the debate.
Yes.
Back to the debate. So I think what I love about, at its most kind of top level about what Tim was talking about is that, you know, his complaint about design had become small was this idea that design is an aesthetic. I mean, how many times has the design have you been, someone said to you, make it look pretty, you'll make it look pretty. And I was like, yes, but, you know, we can do other things.
Yes.
You know, design as an artifact, so the beautiful chair, the beautiful coffee machine, the beautiful Stark lemon squeezer that like sprays lemon juice into your eyes.
Which is also a major, I mean, I still see today like clients wanting an artifact, wanting something.
Yeah, and I get it, and that's part of design. But there's another part of design, which is design as problem solving. As Tim says, design is an act. Design is an action. It's a mechanism for better thinking. And I think that, to me, has been the greatest gift, especially in a business context. You know, to help CEOs and business leaders understand that design is more than an outcome and an aesthetic and an object. It's actually a really great way of thinking. And so I think that was useful. I think Natasha, she's a badass. I love Natasha. She's just really inspiring. I know her a little bit. And she made 3 great points. There's no crit. So how can you do great work without crit? You know, design without criticism and critical thinking is nothing, right? Great point. No craft. So there's absolutely no mastery. You know, it's poorly made and poorly executed often. And there's no case studies. So the examples that heralded for design thinking, she uses the example of the children's MRI scanner that they turned into the pirate ship. And her point there is like, why do you need design thinking for that? It's just a really obvious idea that anyone could get to. Why do you need 5-step process to think of that? Which I think they're all fair points. I think a slight counterpoint to the crit thing is, like if you talk to experienced designers and product designers, which Tim was, then you would say that user testing is a kind of crit that's more valuable if you're building a digital product than, you know, a bunch of designers looking around criticizing something. User testing is a type of crit, which is useful. And I do think your kind of view of design thinking is definitely colored from what type of designer you are. Because it did come out of product design, right? It didn't come out of graphic design or brand design. So it's definitely less useful in that space. But anyway, so my 2 cents on the thing, a couple of thoughts. I think design thinking brings empathy into business decision making. And that's the great value to me, because the bar is too low to make a bad business decision, but bad as in bad for people. So like it's unfortunately, so much easier to build a product or a brand or a business that's bad for people. You know, think about it. It's kind of a product that's full of salt or sugar, that's addictive, that is manufactured in a way that's harmful to the environment, that's distributed through plastic. It's so much easier to do that than to do something else. And it's the same with digital. It's so much easier to scale a product that's harmful and addictive. There's a whole model for it, the hook model. So it's kind of like we're similarly replicating some of the bad industrial processes in the digital world, which is worrying. So I actually think that this is a good way of bringing some empathy and some empathy for the damn user and the planet and culture into decision-making process. And it's clearly been needed, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be so popular. It's probably better than the other mechanisms and thoughts that we're using to make decisions. So I like that. I think the other point is design thinking is part of a bigger process. That's why it's called design thinking. It's not design making, it's not design crafting, it's not design executing. It's design thinking. It's just designed to be like a tiny kind of abstraction of what designers do and how they work and how they think. And that's all it is. So to think about it like that, design thinking is not for designers. I don't know why we get so upset about it. It's not for designers. It's for people that aren't creative or where there's no design industry. You know, you think about the developing world. There's no designers there. And this is a really useful mechanism for them to just take a little bit of that design thinking again to problem solve. So it's not for designers. It's for non-designers and places where there aren't any designers. And then the final thought is, and I ended my keynote with this the other day, is that I think this is a great time for design, in fact the best time, because, you know, I think that we're problem solvers. Whether you're a brand designer, graphic designer, experience designer, motion designer, whatever kind of designer, one of your gifts is you're a problem solver, right? And there's never been more problems. You know, there are so many more problems than there are designers. So we are needed. We are needed more than ever since the Industrial Revolution, and there weren't any designers then. You know, so this is like by every metric the best and most important time to be a designer, I think. And I think design thinking has only helped to level up. So that's it. I think design is bigger than ever, and design thinking played a part in that. So So we should, I think, be thankful for it. It was designed in a specific time and place, in a specific context that helped. And then the rest of it was like, okay, so what's the future of design innovation? And these were like 7 things that we're excited about at RGA right now.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was like, okay, this is the best time ever to be a designer. And then here's some of the reasons why.
Yeah.
So we can go through that if you like.
Yes, please.
All right. So, excuse me, spatial design. So why is this interesting? You know, he's one of my heroes, right? Kevin Kelly, founding editor of Wired. And he talks about this idea that very soon every object, everything in the world will have its digital twin in what he calls mirror world, which is a terrible name. But, you know, you get the point, mirror world. And why it's exciting now is because the foundations are nearly there. The bones of this new spatial dimension are nearly there because of a few reasons. One, Tesla. So Tesla's busy mapping the world. So Tesla's full of cameras, as you know.
Yes.
So this is what Tesla car sees. So you're starting to get an incredibly precise 3D map of the world. So this is like Google Maps on steroids, basically. And it's not just exterior, it's interior as well. One of our clients, Magic Leap, this is how the Magic Leap in camera tech works. So this is real time. So it's mapping that quickly. It's mapping the environment. Of course, this is all data, right? So this is all stored. This brings a whole wealth of possibilities.
Wow.
For the first time, we can truly intersect the digital and physical landscapes, and it isn't just one layer. So the physical world at the bottom there, we already have the digital world. Now we have these incredible layers of experience that we can build on top of, everything from mobility to health, wellness, everything. And each one of these layers can be personalized, and there's literally an infinite amount of them, which is awesome. This is my favorite example. This is awesome. Check it out. Google launched this tribute, a monument that's purely digital for the Stonewall 50th anniversary. Each one of these little tiles is a piece of content from the Stonewall archive. It's so cool. You should check out this. The case study is amazing. It'll bring you to tears. It's so cool. And I think and you can contribute, and you can see this from across New York. It's so cool. Check it out. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, transition design. This started, you can't see. There's an awesome lady called Terry Irwin. This is her kind of definition of transition design. Basically, how do we use design to get us to a more sustainable future faster?
Yep.
And I think just to put it into a little bit more context, I think Tesla's a great example. So Tesla, Solar City. So actually today, it's way more sustainable to make a regular car than it is an electric car. Way more when you break down the life cycle of the product and making batteries and that kind of stuff. So obviously, Elon Musk knows this. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the electric economy. So this is, have you seen this? Gigafactory 1.
Yes.
Holy shit. This is the world's biggest building.
So the first time I saw that, they didn't have the pictures of the windmills in there. And so when I finally saw that, it was, that's quite astounding.
So what's awesome about, well, a few things about this. First of all, it's the biggest building in the world. So to put that in context, that's bigger than 3 Central Parks.
Wow.
Can you believe that? And so Elon calls this the machine that makes the machine. And he talks about it as much of a product as the car is. And what's amazing about it is it's 100% sustainable, so it doesn't use any fossil fuels. It's completely regenerative. It uses solar power. So he's actually designing the transitions between manufacturing, distribution, of course, the car itself. And so it's a great example of that. Circular design. Everyone knows about this, right? There's Tim Brown. The next big thing is circular. So just to explain, it's actually very straightforward to understand. We currently live in a linear economy. Dig stuff out the ground, you make something with it, you use it, and you put it back in the ground again, which is insanity, right? Well, circular is exactly as it sounds. It's circular. So, you know, you create products that are restorative, resilient, so they last longer, and they're regenerative. So they actually, well, as it says, regenerative. This is one of my favorite examples, Ecovative.
Yep, made from mushrooms. Exactly.
So this is kind of wine packaging that has all the properties of plastic. As you say, Matt, made of mushrooms. So you chuck it back in the ground, it regrows again. There's loads of examples on ellenmacarthurfoundation.org and IDEO's Circular Design Guide. And 3 weeks ago, Nike launched their own Circular Design Guide.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Please, any designers, check it out. Bring it into your practice. It's really important to think in this way. Automated activism. Automation gets a bad name in design. Yeah. So I'd like to make a counterpoint that it can be very useful. So this is a fact. 52% of young Americans do not vote, partly because it is so painful to get registered to vote. It's archaic, it's paper-based. So at RGA, we created a bot called GoVoteBot. It plugs into Facebook. It makes it really easy within minutes to get set up and registered to vote. This was a bunch of young designers at RGA that had never built a bot before, and they decided to do it as a little making experiment. And they did it in a week, everything, and it helps 500,000 people vote in America. Another example here, This is a great one. So women make up 50% of the workforce, but 25% less likely to get a raise. And so we created the Cindy bot, Cindy Gallop. I do have a bit of video here. Do you want me to play it, or do you have sound or what? So yeah, this. Just play a little bit of it. Will they be able to hear that?
We haven't got any sound actually. So.
Oh, okay. Well, she swears. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
But essentially, this bot is designed to genuinely help you with negotiation advice. So we actually use some of the best sources of this stuff. We also put it in Cindy's tone of voice by using a kind of tone analyzer. Some things that she said and written. And it's designed to give you the motivation and the information that you need to have a great negotiation. So it gives you information around like how much you should be getting paid in your area, your rate, and even down to the best day or time to have these kinds of conversations. It's live, so feel free to use it. Ask for a raise. Inclusive design.
Can I just ask about?
Yes.
How does Cindy feel about that? Because
she loves it. I mean, she's one of the leading voices
she lives forever now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I was talking about with Automation Act.
Yeah.
Because you can scale someone that's incredible like Cindy. Yeah. You know, how can Cindy help thousands and thousands of people negotiate? And you can do that through technology. You can create these incredible network effects where you can take the impact of one individual and scale it to a multitude. And that's what's so exciting, right? Yeah. That's what technology can do. It can amplify the effectiveness of our work. Inclusive design. Yeah, I couldn't think of a better name for this. Maybe it should be real inclusive design, whatever. Anyway, so this is another example. Women influence 63% of car purchases, but are 71% more likely to get injured in a crash.
Wow.
And you know why that is? Because there's no bloody female crash test dummies. They're all white male. Yeah, so Volkswagen actually just won a Cannes for this year for their strategy. So they've created the first female crash test. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is a problem, right? So the deadly truth about a world built for men, from stab vests to car crashes. This is an awesome article you can read in The Guardian. And basically, the world's designed for middle-aged white men. And so if this isn't an invitation for innovation, I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? And we talk about design, there's not life or death. In this situation, it is. Bad design's literally killing people. Ridiculous. This is one of my favorite examples, TESCO in the UK. So again, like proper inclusive design. They've created something called the quiet hour for people that are suffering from autism. So you can go and shop, and they turn all the lights down. There's no tannoys, there's no announcement, there's no stacking shelves. And it's for people that have autism so they can go and shop and have a good experience. And they also created the slow queue for the elderly or for people suffering from dementia.
Right.
So, because it's all about faster, right? How's an elderly person supposed to use that self-checkout? I mean, I find it hard enough.
Yeah.
So, again, design for everybody, design for real people with different needs. And there's an invitation for innovation. 6 of 7, design with AI. So this is an awesome article. Please read it. The End of Code. TESCO. So this is a really cool point of view, which is we won't be coding anymore. We'll actually train our machines like pets, like dogs. This is an example. Another leading figure, Maurice Conti, you can watch him on TED. Our tools will move from passive to generative. So his point is, and it's a great one, literally every tool we've ever built only does what we tell it to. From the first spear that was thrown, it only goes where we throw it. To your stylus today, it only goes where you point it. But the difference today will be, as we design in the future, we'll be able to actually brief our machines. So this is an algorithm, an AI, designing an aerial drone chassis. And it's been given a set of parameters. It's been basically given a design brief. How much weight, how much materials, how much cost. And this is it working through its process iterations. And this is the end result. And what's interesting about it, it looks almost identical to a flying squirrel skeleton.
Wow.
Because essentially what it's done is replicated natural selection, right? Pretty cool. This is one of my favorite images on AI. So this is a structural node. And the one on the left was built by man. The one in the middle, the one on the right were built by algorithm, by AI. And the one on the right is twice as strong and uses 50% less material. And it just kind of makes you think about what's the future of everything, what's the future of aesthetics as we start to use machines to build a world using far less. So that's exciting. Final one, designing calm technology. You've heard me talk about this before. This is a very old movement, started in the 70s. It's written by an amazing man, Weiser. He died, unfortunately, but he wrote a paper called The Coming Age of Calm Technology. And he predicted the attention economy. He was the first person to coin that phrase. And it's interesting, it's a backlash against the fact that we're already so frustrated with our technology because it's so demanding of us. And so calm technology is a movement. It's been picked up by a lady from called Amber at Harvard University. So if you go to calmtech.com. But it's the idea of technology what if technology required the smallest amount of attention? What if it induced calm? What if it made use of the periphery? And so this is one example. It's an umbrella. If it's raining outside, it glows blue. So you just pick it up on your way out. You don't have to open your app. You don't have to do anything. And that's the final point, really, which is I think that it's not that technology isn't ready for us, it's that we're not ready for technology. And this has always been the case. The original elevators in New York had to be artificially slowed down because people were freaking out. And so I feel like there's a massive role for us as designers, as a design industry, to make sense of this stuff, to humanize it, to make it work for people, not annoy people, not distract people, not make them like a machine. I mean, our primary role is to be humans. And so I think technology should help us to do that. And I think you see that at the Adobe conference, right? All these tools, like I said, last time we talked, we're in a world where Adobe, all these companies are making tools for us to make sense of this new, right? So VR, AR, all these tools. So we're the first people to play with this technology. So we have an opportunity to humanize that and make sure it's bloody useful and it works for people, or at a basic level, entertains people at least in some way. And that's a huge job, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. So that was it, really. The final thought is design is bigger than ever. There are more problems than ever. There are certainly more problems than there are designers. And there's so many interesting things happening in our industry. Design thinking is one tiny little part of it. So let's not get too upset about it and get more excited about what's coming next. That's it.
That's wonderful.
Bang on time.
Thank you very much. There's kind of nowhere to go from that. Kind of covered everything. I just wanted to bring up one thing, though. When you took the stage yesterday, the first thing you said was, "I love my job." That's really wonderful to hear. And I think I feel like more of us need to kind of be able to
I do.
to say that.
I love my job. I found, like, I didn't go to a great school. I didn't do well in school, but I found eventually a way to contribute through design. I found a way to show up and be somewhat useful through design. For that, I'll be forever grateful for that opportunity. And I think that I love my job because it isn't a job. It's a way of life, you know, to sound a bit cliche. And that's why I'm on such a bloody mission to show people what design can do, because it can do incredible things, you know. So yeah, I also said I love Australia.
You did, and you're back.
I'm back. I do love Australia. I've hired loads of Australians into New York. I think Aussies are fantastic people, really talented, really creative. And I think Australia's got a really high level of craft, but just also really punches above its weight across the world creatively. You know, I'm fortunate to be able to go around the world and see a lot of these awards and things, and Australian work always shows really well.
Why is that? Is that because we're slightly removed? So
I don't know. I think there's lots to it. I think that it's partly the psyche of Australia, which is generally very optimistic. You know, it's the lucky country, and it's a cliche, but there's a mindset here which is we can do stuff, we can try stuff, and I think you need optimism, you need positivity to be a great designer. I think, not to say we shouldn't be critical, of course we should, but there's something about the spirit, and I think there's also that fair go, right? Give it a go. I find that clients over here have a crack, just try it, give it a go, we'll give it a go. Also, I think there is a thing where the companies are just a bit smaller than America, where in which the chain of command is vast, and they can be quite conservative, American companies. So there's a lot to it, but I think it's there's some of the things anyway.
It's wonderful to have you back. When do you need to leave?
Tomorrow.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Have you managed
I'll be back. I'm coming back in November, I think.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Much better time for swimming. So.
Ah, yeah. Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much, audience, for tuning in. Stick around. We'll be back very shortly.